Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dig into a huge idea, a massive shift in power that really defines our modern world. It's the story of how people went from being subjects, ruled by others, to becoming citizens in a democracy. So let's get right into what that actually means.
You know, to understand any kind of government, you have to start with the most basic question there is. Who makes the rules? Who gets to decide how much we pay in taxes, what laws we have to follow, how our country is even run? The answer to that simple question has changed a lot over the years. For most of human history, the answer was pretty simple. One person made all the rules. A king, a queen, an emperor, whatever they wanted, that was the law. The people? They had zero say. But then, this totally revolutionary idea started to catch on. What if the people made the rules themselves? And that, right there, is the heart of democracy.
So, this incredible change is where we're going to start. Section 1. From kings to citizens. Let's really understand this fundamental shift in who holds the power.
Okay, so what is democracy? Officially? Well, at its core, it's a system where power flows from the people up, not from a ruler down. The most important part of that whole definition is the right to participate. It means authority isn't something you're born with, it's something that's given by the citizens.
But here's the first big hurdle. It's a great idea in theory, but in a country with millions or even billions of people, how can everybody possibly get together to make every single decision? I mean, it's just not practical, right? So how do you make this big idea actually work?
And that question leads us right into our next section. We're going to get into the nuts and bolts of it all. Let's take a look at how democracy actually works in the real world. The solution, and it's a pretty clever one, is what we call representative democracy. It solves that problem of having too many people. See, instead of everyone voting on every little thing, we, the citizens, elect representatives, people we trust to go make those laws and decisions for us. This is the system most of us live under today.
And the engine that makes this whole system run? It's the election. This is the absolute cornerstone of a representative democracy. It's that moment where the people use their power by casting a vote for who they want to represent them.
So what does that process actually look like? Well, it usually starts with people who have similar ideas getting together to form political parties. Then, those parties pick their candidates and put out a manifesto, which is basically their big plan, their promises to the people. After that, it's our turn. All adult citizens get to vote, and whichever party gets the most votes, well, they get the job of running the government.
But what about the parties that don't win? Do they just go home? Nope. They become the opposition, and their job is actually super important. They're there to keep an eye on the government, to challenge bad ideas, and to make sure the winners are held accountable to everyone. It ensures all different viewpoints are still heard.
You know, this whole system with parties and voting and governments, it all comes down to the most important actor in the entire play, you, the citizen. Which brings us to our next section, all about your rights and your duties. Think of it like this. Being a citizen is a two-way street. On one side, you get all these incredible rights. The freedom to say what you think, to question the people in power, to protect your own culture. But on the other side of that deal, you have duties. And the big ones are to pay attention to what's going on, and of course, to show up and vote.
So, how do you do your part? How do you vote wisely? Well, it means you have to look past just the slogans and the posters. You have to ask yourself, is this person honest? What have they actually done before? Do they seem dedicated to serving the public? And you really need to understand what their party is all about. That's what being an informed voter really means.
Of course, it would be amazing if this all worked perfectly all the time. But it's a system run by people, and, well, people are complicated. That takes us right into our next section, the very real challenges to democracy.
Let's start with a really common question. If this vote is our source of power, this incredible tool we have, then why on earth do so many people just not use it?
Well, it seems to boil down to a few main reasons. For some people, honestly, it's just laziness. For others, it's a sense of indifference, that feeling of, my one little vote isn't going to change anything. And for a lot of folks, it's that they just don't feel like they know enough about the candidates to make a good choice.
But then you have challenges that are way more serious than just people not showing up. There are unfair practices. Some candidates try to mislead voters by dividing them along lines of caste or religion instead of talking about real issues. Some try outright bribery, offering cash or gifts for a vote. And then you have defections, where a politician gets elected with one party and then just switches to another for their own benefit, totally betraying the people who voted for them.
And you know, the challenges don't just happen around election time.
Deep conflicts within society, like two states fighting bitterly over who gets the water from a river, can really test democracy. They can divide people in ways that are very hard to heal peacefully.
So, with all these problems, you might start to feel a little discouraged. But it's not hopeless, which brings us to our final and maybe most important section, making democracies succeed.
You see, a healthy democracy isn't an accident. It needs a few essential ingredients. First, you need aware citizens and wise leaders. You need a government that actually listens to public opinion. It absolutely requires tolerance and discipline from everyone for the good of the whole country. And at the foundation of it all, you need a real commitment to social and economic equality for everybody.
That point about tolerance is so important it's worth focusing on. Look at this quote: "An intolerant minority can destroy the democratic structure." That's a powerful warning. It reminds us that democracy isn't just about the majority getting its way. It's about protecting the rights of the minority to disagree and have their voices heard too.
At the end of the day, when you strip everything else away, it all comes down to this. The whole thing only works if people have faith in the system, if they trust that it's fair, and if everyone agrees to disagree peacefully. Without that faith and that peace, the whole structure starts to crumble.
And that leaves us with one final thought. Democracy isn't a spectator sport. It's not something you just watch on TV. It's something we all have to build and protect, together, every day. It depends completely on its citizens. So, the only real question left is, what part will you play?